know that what I love kind of about myself and like life is kind of like these layers that we can shed, like as we kind of grow into, like, you know, we want to be that higher self or that bigger person or the higher, like, whatever, right? It's this person we're becoming and aspiring to be as we're like manifesting and like creating a new reality, or like creating a business or a podcast, right? Or manifesting your lover. Like, in what we learn, well, what I've learned anyways, is that when you have these desires, whoever you are right now, there's a reason why you're not having it, right? And so that means that whoever you are right now, likely, you know, there's either healing involved or like some kind of growth, or, you know, and it's like identity work. Like, it's just, whoever it is you believe you are right now, there's just like, you know, a few little shifts, maybe perspective change, the healing, like I mentioned, and I don't know. I just find it fascinating because if I reflect back to who I was even just like a month ago, it's like, like I don't even, like, I'm just not that person anymore. What I find fascinating is that, you know, if you have like a best friend of like 2 years ago and you were to meet, like, there are layers of like, oh yeah, like I know you, like, you know, it's cool, but it's like, man, like, I'm not who I was then. Like,
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
big time. This has been something that's on my mind so much recently. It's kind of funny that you brought it up, because I was literally having this discussion with a client yesterday, and we were talking about how 1 year ago, like, I was working in a starch plant, working night shifts. Like, picture me in like a white lab coat and steel toe boots and a hairnet, sweeping starch off the floor at 3 a.m.
Oh my god. I could picture that, but it's just like funny.
And that was literally like, that wasn't even a year ago. This was literally February of 2023. So It hasn't even been a year.
Yeah.
And it's just like so crazy how much can change in such a short amount of time. And at the time when you're going through it, you're like, this isn't working, nothing's changing, like, I'm not where I want to be. And then you look back like a year and you're just like, whoa, like the growth and the change that can happen in a 1 year time span is just like mind blowing.
Yeah. Absolutely. Like, even, you know, depending on like what you're working on, I find that as long as you have like a goal or a vision, and this is why I love working with like desire. I feel like our desire, like, is specifically our heart's desires, when it's coming from like a really deeper, authentic place, they tend to purify in a way. Like, we end up having to like really go inward and be like, oh, okay, like, if I actually want to have a relationship that, you know, is loving, and, you know, I feel whole, and like, you know, I'm not in some weird attachment trauma bond with my systems fully activated, it does require a part of me or part of whoever is in that space of like, okay, I need to really look at myself. And in my experience in doing that, like, it ends up being like this deep medicine journey.
Yeah.
Deep medicine journey.
I almost think of it as like a whole bunch of mini spiritual awakenings, like over and over and over again. And I know we've talked about, like, you know, our initial kind of spiritual awakening and what catalyzed us into like our healing and stuff. But I think there is no end to like the spiritual awakening, quote unquote. Like, it's every day, every week, every month, there's like a new layer that comes off.
Oh, yeah.
And you just like, and it keeps going and going. And there's always this constant creation or evolution of yourself and your journey and how you go about life. So yeah, it's just like a constant like spiritual awakening over and over and over again, and a constant like unlayering process.
Yeah, I do relate to it in that sense, like, because I feel like it's like this constant blooming, as we begin to like feel more and more comfortable with who we are, and revealing that to someone else. Yeah, to me it's just like this really, really, like, it's like getting more intimate with myself. It's kind of how I've kind of played with that. And what I love about that is that when you have a relationship to it in that sense, is that life gets that much more interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God.
Yeah. It's like a up and down, constant like roller coaster journey, adventure in a way.
Yeah.
I think it's important too to highlight that it's really about like the small like baby steps that you take on a regular basis as opposed to like the massive leaps that kind of come less frequently. I've found the most growth in those like little daily steps that kind of help catapult you into like the person that you actually want to be. And it's hard when we have, we look at where we are and we look at where we want to be and we're just like, oh my God, like it's going to take so much to get there. It's going to be such a long process. And we get kind of lost in the overwhelm of it. You're like, well, I have to do this and I have to do that and I have to be like this and be like that. And then you just get overwhelmed. And I think it kind of like pushes people back into their shell or into like, it creates fear and kind of keeps people stuck when they see that distance between like who you are now and who you want to be. And that's why I think, like I said, it's so important to just like highlight the little baby steps that you can take every day, and they will compound over time to get you to like where you want to be and to being the person that you want to be.
Yeah, totally. I am experiencing something really profound, and I shared with you a little bit before we connected today, but I'm experiencing something really, really profound that I just fucking love. When you are doing like some kind of self-development work and you are creating and actively being an active participant in your life, essentially, that's how I kind of look at it, and actually engaged with life. There are these like little shifts, like you mentioned, these little shifts that happen, and each shift is like a new perspective and like a new identity. And for anyone that's like new to identity work, like who you are right now, dependent on kind of like, how honest you are and authentic you are with yourself, essentially, and the people around you, there will be an identity like made up inside of you. So like if you're showing up in the world and you think of yourself as like a mom, like that would be your identity, like that you're creating identity around it. And it does box you in because now if you have beliefs around being a mother that, has to be conservative, or she's not allowed to have desires, or like, she can't go out and have private time, then you're going to be really restricted in that way, and you likely won't be very nourished, and you will create resentment in your life, a lot of resentment, be a little bit of a people pleaser even. So, and then people pleaser is a whole other identity that a lot of people kind of sit in. And yeah, so for me, I'm kind of in this like fascinating aspect where I put on a lot of hats. I'm a mom, I'm a lover, I'm a coach, I'm a teacher, there's all these like various hats. I'm a friend, like just all these identities. And something that I've been aspiring to really sink deeper in is my own relationship with God and just with life. And how I show up in the world. And these last couple of days have kind of been these like, the best way I can describe it is when you kind of like, it's like you're like clicking like things inside of your body, you're like clicking into place.
I picture like a Rubik's Cube.
Exactly. Oh, there's one.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's like that color, like you got all the colors are it's like, all the sides are the right colors. So I'm feeling that these last couple of days, and it's basically another way to use it in more of a tangible word that maybe people are used to hearing is like I'm embodying what I've been desiring in my life. Like I'm finally embodying it. And this is a really exciting time to be in, and confusing. Like identity work is fucking like it's a mindfuck.
Oh yeah, big time.
A mindfuck.
Yeah.
Mindfuck.
Yeah, I think too when you get so wrapped up in one single identity and you have it taken away from you, that really throws you into like a spiral, like a downward spiral. And I've had that happen like multiple times throughout my life. Like for example, when I like lost my job almost 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So like everything that you think you are and this person that you think you are, and you've got the stable life, you did all the right things that society told you were supposed to do, and then it all is like taken from you like just like that, and you're kind of left just like, holy shit, like who am I? What do I do now? Where do I go? This entire like path and direction that I thought I had is suddenly gone, and you essentially have to find yourself again almost, right? Because the entire person that you thought you were, you're no longer that person. And that I find when you wrap yourself up in one identity specifically too much, that will happen, and it'll happen probably like repeatedly.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And it's a big one. I've kind of like, because I've done this work for so long, I kind of felt the pattern is the word I'm coming through, but like I guess phases or stages that happen in an identity shift. And the most common one that I think a lot of people have heard of, or maybe even been able to Google, would be the dark night of the soul. Which really is just this space of contrast, of realizing that you were in one way of perception or being, which would be like, let's use this archetype of the mother just for a rolling example, where you heavily had your identity wrapped around as being the mother. So whether you have a kid, so that means your life is wrapped around being mothering to whether it be a kid, your partner, because I see that happen a lot. You don't know how to shift out of that identity to relate to someone in an authentic place. And when you begin to unravel that identity and you start stepping into, the one that is more authentic to you, whatever there could be various things, or just simply a relaxation into just the moment a bit better. The part of you that is kind of like feeling the contrast of all the mothering to something that's just not that can be fucking a lot, and it's disorienting, it's confusing. It can also be very depressing, like a lot of the grief of wearing the weight of something that wasn't true to you for so long, like poof, it hits.
Yeah. I think too, like we, talk about it as like a dark night of the soul. It's disorienting, it's confusing, and like it is all those things. It can also be really exciting too. Like when you kind of have your sense of self or who you think you are basically dismantled, it's like, okay, well, I don't know my path right now. I maybe don't know who I am, and that gives me the ability to create something new. I can now become maybe the person that I always wanted to be, or I can pick up these new habits, or I can do something differently. So like it is hard, it is painful, it's confusing, but it's also like what's that saying where it's like rock bottom is the base from which you can create, another quote. There's like a quote that relates to that. And basically what it says is like, when you're at rock bottom, when you don't know who you are, it is the base, the foundation from you can create like a whole new life from it.
Yeah, no, I know the quote you're thinking of, but I can't think of it.
Can't like word for word.
Google it and like superimpose it in text or something in the video version. Anyone watches on YouTube, you'll see it. So yeah, absolutely. And the reason I want to highlight the darker aspects, because it is more traditionally known as the dark night of the soul, is because the reason why I'm saying it more on the darker aspect, because if you were to Google it, it does say a lot about that. And for me, in the beginning, it was incredibly disorienting, and it was confusing, and it was really sad. Like I was crying a lot and just fucking confused. But as you go more into this work, you develop kind of like just more awareness of the process of how it takes to like, okay, I did all this work. Okay, I'm feeling a little bit of a dip right now, or there's a shift, there's a change. And I feel like the optimism and the excitement about what's to come happens because it's like in hindsight. You know what I mean? That's what my experience has been. Now when I feel this like disorientation, even like confusion and a little bit of like a void space or a nothingness, I'm like, oh, okay, something is like reorganizing.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's something about to happen, and it gets exciting.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that the excitement, when you understand that and when you have that awareness, because like in the beginning, if you don't know what's happening, you don't have that awareness.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what you don't know, you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
When you go through the process, or you have a mentor, or you have a friend, or you have a podcast like this
Mm-hmm.
that, you know, explains kind of like the phases, you can get excited about
Mm-hmm.
it because you have the awareness around it. So for me, that's kind of like where I'm at now.
Mm-hmm.
When I notice, like now, when I started to notice like this, like I physically felt different. Like I woke up and I'm like, whoa, okay,
Mm-hmm.
this is different. And then there's excitement, and then
Mm-hmm.
because you develop that and you have that understanding and awareness, I feel like you can pull yourself out of a dark night of the soul faster.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I've noticed.
Yeah. Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. I think like my initial dark night of the soul, I think I've had like 2 now, but yeah, it was like almost a year.
Mm-hmm.
And now when I go through these dips or these really difficult periods, I feel like it is condensed. Like it's
Exactly.
like it might be a couple months or maybe a couple weeks or something
Yeah.
like that. Because you learn quicker and you
Yes.
understand quicker and you can process and just be aware of what's going on, as opposed to being so consumed by it that you're just like stuck in the confusion and the disorientation
Mm-hmm.
of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And I think that just from having the awareness of it, and you know, having people around you that can support you, that you can talk to,
Mm-hmm.
that's like the first phase, that little like dip of the dark night of the soul. And then the next phase, there is like, you're kind of in this void space, kind of what I was kind of alluding to,
Mm-hmm.
where nothing makes sense, whether you're okay or not okay with it. There's just because it can be fucking terrifying, right? Just sitting in nothingness,
Mm-hmm.
especially if you're like an entrepreneur, or you just have things in your life that you know you need to do, or
Mm-hmm.
you need to get going, quote unquote need to. It can be really hard to do nothing.
Yeah. I think too, like for some of us and like me specifically, the fear sets in at that point.
Yes.
And I start trying to escape to different things.
Yes.
Like, and I started trying to literally move to Mexico. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not even kidding.
I've tried Costa Rica.
Yeah. Because you feel like this, how it feels for me is I feel this like pressure build inside of me. And I feel like it's like an energetic pressure. And I'm like,
Yeah.
things are changing, things are shifting, and it gets so uncomfortable that I start trying to get away from it. Like I'm trying to escape it in some way. And for some people that will manifest in like drug and alcohol. It could be like a shopping problem. It could be like maybe you jump into a relationship with someone that you shouldn't be in a relationship with.
Good old rebound.
Yeah, exactly. Or you could be like me, and next thing you know, you're online trying to like figure out how you can get a Mexican visa because you want to move away, and because you're trying to escape the thing that's inside of you.
Oh yeah.
And you can't.
I actually tried to convince my partner, who we have a house with, we're sitting in right now. We gotta sell our house. Let's move to Costa Rica. We can do it. We could, you know, like I was trying to convince him.
Yeah.
Thank the Lord, this man is like a grounding rock in my life, because I don't know where I would be right now.
You'd probably moved 15 times in the past 10 years like I have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I've lived, so I'm born and raised in Winnipeg.
Mm-hmm.
And I ran away from home when I was 16. And then from there, I was like couch surfing and, you know, just complete chaos and like drugs, alcohol, selling drugs, like driving around in stolen cars. Maybe, I don't know if I should be saying this online. The Canadian government's like monitoring everything nowadays. Oh shit, but
You're going to jail now.
yeah, just doing a lot of things that I should have been in jail for. Not saying everything, so just that's the context here.
Yeah.
And then I ended up moving with someone, like a guy I was seeing at the time. We moved to Thunder Bay, Ontario, and we moved to Red Rock, and then Nipigon. So all these like little tiny ass little towns around Thunder Bay. And then back to Winnipeg, and then to Regina, and then to BC, Vancouver, and then Regina, and then back to Winnipeg.
Yep.
So I've done it.
Yeah. No, I'm the exact same way. Like I've moved so much. And I think a lot of it too was that trying to escape something.
Yes.
You're like, you know, you think, okay, if I get into a relationship, then I'll be happy. Or if I get into, if I get a new job, then I'll be happy. If I move to BC, then I'm going to be happy. If we get engaged, then I'll be happy. And you're just like, you think that your happiness will come from like some external or that next step. But it's really at the end of the day, you are just trying to search for something outside of you that is really found within you.
So there is like this nothing, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's this nothingness space of that identity, and like you said, it's scary. Like it is fucking terrifying because you're like, oh, I feel like there's no plan. I feel like I have no direction.
Mm-hmm.
So there does become this like outward facing, outward looking for some type of comfort,
Mm-hmm.
really, to like, because that nothingness is so terrifying.
Yeah.
That's been my experience.
Yeah, it's almost like trying to control the outcome, right? If I know what the outcome is, then I don't have to be afraid. But when you have to sit in it and say like, I don't know where I'm going, I don't know what I'm doing, I don't know what this shift looks like, then yeah, that's when like the fear sets in.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So there's that phase, and then I feel like when you either the fear just never fucking goes away because now is this phase of just sitting in nothingness.
Mm-hmm.
Like it is really all it is. Like it really is a call back into center
Mm-hmm.
and just finding some kind of presence with self. And in this darkness, this void, this nothingness, it's, to me, it's almost like if you're that, you know, caterpillar in the cocoon, like the cocoon is like around you.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're not supposed to go anywhere. Like this is just like sit the fuck down, bitch. So I'm like, okay, I gotta sit the fuck down. That's kind of like me energetically talking to myself, kind of doming myself a little bit. I love it. But from there, because there is literally a conscious choice of having to like be in that, the next phase is like this place of surrender.
Mm-hmm.
And I find that for me, this has happened many times, I hear people kind of talking about this, but not in this language, where they've had to like, okay, I actually need to put some things down. I need to put some things aside and just really be here right now. And there's also, I can't remember the quote, but it's like God doesn't talk to you, you know, when you're out doing things. God talks to you when you sit in stillness, when you actually go inward in the silence, when you're alone. And for me, in those aspects, I've had to like actually choose like, oh, okay, like I actually, you know, I need to disconnect. I need to like really be here. And I just feel like that phase for me has been like this deep conscious choice of surrendering to just the nothingness. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then from that surrender, what I've noticed with me is that there is like this metamorphosis. Like I can't really think of a better word for it, but there is like this locking into place, divine intervention. Maybe if you want, we talk about that a lot, or you know, just like this like realization, this revelation, and the clicking into place of everything that was like needed to happen in the surrender.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of feeling that right now in my life, which is, it feels good.
Yeah.
Like it feels so fucking good because it's like, oh, after the nothingness, right? After that fucking terrifying black void of like not really hearing anything, not feeling anything, not, you know, no movements, and just complete stillness and darkness, which again can be fucking terrifying for a lot of people who are in that outward kind of movement and chase kind of dynamic. So there's no like rushing that. But yeah, the clicking into place is really fucking juicy.
Yeah. It's exciting.
Yeah.
It's exciting to feel yourself start to come out of that phase, right? You start to, it's almost like seeing the light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
And it's really exciting to feel the momentum behind it and like the excitement and the passion and all of that, and it starts to like build, and it's almost like something like propelling you forward, you know? It's just like, it's like a push. It's like, okay, go now. You did the thing, now go.
Yeah, totally. And just to give a bit more context, for me, like I mentioned a little bit, like I've been really going deep into healing my own relationship with like God, and really going inward and seeing what that is for me. And this has been like a 2-year long little journey with my relationship with God, and you know, seeing stuff online, hearing what people are saying, and just like, oh, okay, you know, like having curiosity and following those threads, and then at the end of the thread, I'm like, oh no, that's not for me. You know? Just like, oh no, it's actually religious jargon. That is a cult. Not doing that. You know, following all these like random threads and it just not being for me. And I feel like that, you know, it all served a purpose because it all brought me deeper into myself.
Yeah, I like that you brought up that kind of 2-year metamorphosis thing too, because we were talking about this before we started recording about like how those eclipses that just passed were the ending of a 2-year cycle.
Right.
And I was kind of explaining that my process over the last 2 years has been very much the same. So I'm curious if the people listening would also like reflect on that and then also kind of see similarities in their own journey over the past 2 years as well, because I know mine has just been like a complete like death, rebirth, like over and over and over again for the past 2 years. And I'm also at a very similar place where it's like now I'm coming out of it, and it's exciting, and it was like probably the hardest 2 years of my life.
Yes.
Like so much pain, so much like emotional purging, so much shifting, so much changing, just like over and over again. So yeah, to come out of that now is just like you just like take a deep breath and you're like, okay, like now, you know, I did so much of the work. I worked so hard and I tried and I did everything that I felt I was being called to do in a way. And now it's like, now I get to be like the good part. Now we get to the good stuff kind of thing. My nose is running. Like, I'm like snotting. Like, it's so distracting. I don't know what's going on. I gotta cut that out.
Clean it up, Kotor.
I could like feel it when you were talking, and I was like, I can't touch my nose.
I can't see anything.
Okay, good.
If that helps.
Yeah.
What's it called? White chicks?
No.
Really?
No.
Oh. Okay. Can't see anything. Just so you know.
Okay.
It's all you.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, the whole death and rebirth process, and that's like that is literally, you know, part of the process of identity shifting, right? Like at the other side, when everything starts to click into place, like you are being reborn. Like all of these layers of yourself need to be like dead and kind of like thrown up into the altar, and you kind of come out of your ashes and you're this newborn fucking phoenix. And it does sound like, oh wow, like that's a little movie-esque, but it really is that. You know, like when you're that in your life, like engaged in your life. The word engaged has been so alive for me this week actually. Like when you're that actively engaged in your fucking life, you're not tuning out and zoning out on Netflix every day. You know, you're not numbing yourself with sugars and like
alcohol.
Alcohol, exactly. Yeah. Like anything like that, right? Or, you know, whatever. There's so many different ways that we do it. There's an aliveness in you. And even the mundane, like those mundane little things that happen to you in your life and for you in your life, it's just magic. It's so potent and inspiring. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember a specific moment in my life when I realized that I had to live every day with like intention.
Yeah.
Like it was like, this was a very small moment. I was literally standing in my kitchen, like at a friend's apartment or something. But it's so pivotal, right? And I still remember it. And then I remember just being like, oh, I have to every single day make like conscious effort to be and live the way I want to be. And you can't just like go into robot mode and function like that anymore. It's not going to get you to the place that you want to be at.
Yeah. Yeah, same. That is something that I have put a lot of intentional practice into. And yes, it's about being intentional, but something that I try to aspire to, like I guess I set my intention every day, is to be as present as possible as I can with every moment of my life, specifically with every relationship in my life, because there was a time in my life when I wasn't, and I could see how not only chaotic, but just how painful it was for me and for the people in my life too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can definitely relate to the making sure that you are being present with yourself and your life and the people around you, because I spent a large portion of my life being very in my head, like disassociated almost, because the scenarios, or like being in my head, was better than like being in life. It was, more enjoyable, more happy, like this weird place that you live in your head is just more enjoyable than your real life. And I think when I realized that, it allowed me to go, okay, well, I want life to be better than the life I'm like making up in my head.
Yeah.
Preferably.
Totally.
And then this was kind of around the same time where it was like, okay, well, you have to intentionally choose and make decisions every single day to be present and kind of like be the person that you want to be, if that makes sense.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's actually, it's so funny you use that, because I can't remember exactly who quoted this, because some people say it was Buddha, some people say it was whoever else, some other enlightened master, where it's like, be the change you want to be.
Yeah.
And that was like the quote that I actually remember putting it as my New Year's resolution when I started my business. I put it in my story. I was like, I'm going to be the change I want to be. Putting that on there. But I actually meant it. That was like the thing for me. And yeah, I feel like just living in that way, when you have that intention in your life and you have some kind of like something that you want to aspire, like you have that deeper connection to that heart's desire that you want to create in your life, it is actively like these little death and rebirths, because I feel like when you go, the best word I could think of is like being unconscious, you know, when you kind of like snap out of it and you're just on autopilot versus like, okay, I'm here, I'm present, and I'm engaged, I'm here. It is like it's fucking painful. It is so painful, and it's not even painful for me. Like, I know the relationship that like whoever I'm talking to, like if I were just to go unconscious right now, like it would hurt both of us. It would totally hurt both of us. Like, it is such an energetic thing, because it's like your heart closes when you do that. And every moment it's like your heart's open or it's closed. It's open or it's closed. And I just want to aspire to be as open as I possibly can, because it is fucking, oh my God, it's amazing. Even when it is like, even if the moment is like requiring me to see the suffering in this world, keeping my heart open to that, as fucking painful as it is, I'd rather feel that than disassociate and numb myself to everything that's happening.
Yeah.
Like what's ever happening in front of me right now. Yeah,
no, I totally agree. I have come to that conclusion over the years too. It's like, I would rather feel everything to the fullest extent, whether it's like the good, the bad, the ugly, than to go back to a place of not feeling anything, because you're so afraid of the pain and all of that. So instead you just like, you feel nothing. Like, I would rather be like from one end of the spectrum to the other.
Yeah, like at this point, I'm more afraid to feel nothing than I am afraid to feel.
Totally, yeah, 100%.
Like, if I think about my life, like 6+ years ago, when I was actively numbing myself in various ways, fuck no.
Yeah, totally. And like that's like the beauty of life, right? It's like you have one side and then you have the other, and you can't appreciate one without the other, right? You can't appreciate love without pain. You can't appreciate light without the dark, kind of those perspectives or those aspects. And I love it. Like, I love being able to really sink into the depths of like the shit and like the pain and anger and sadness. And then you kind of come out of it and you get that like, wow, like that, the love and the joy and everything. And I would take that any day over going back to not feeling anything.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. And I feel like that is a big piece of this rebirth at the other side of this identity shift, where you just feel so much. Like, it literally is like, I think I was saying this to you before when we started this. It's like I felt like a Super Saiyan.
Yeah. So much energy.
Yeah, like you literally just like come back to life. There's that rebirth, and obviously it's not always like that. And there definitely was a point in, you know, like this evolution for me, like years ago when I was doing like beginning and doing this. There was the chase of that high, because it is a bit of a high. Like it is a high. Like you're like, holy fuck, I'm seeing everything in Technicolor, and my orgasms are like mind blowing. You know, like everything's amazing.
Yeah.
And so there obviously it can be a relation to that, but the more you kind of like, more that I've gone through it anyways, it's like a cherry on top. It's not the be all end all. And it's also just like opening more and just being more me. Like that's just something that's like a big theme this week anyways, of just feeling more like me.
Yeah. I love that feeling, that the rebirth and then shedding of the layers and becoming, like you said, more yourself, or, you know, a better version of yourself, or just more embodied, more you at the end of the day. I love that feeling. That's such a good feeling to find.
Yeah. And another thing I can describe about this is like, I find that confidence, like that's like a big thing for me lately, is just like really coming into my own confidence. And I know if people were to like observe me over the like my entire life, they probably think I'm a very confident person. I've been told that before. I'm like, I don't know, who the fuck, you were looking at the same person.
Yeah.
I don't know. But yeah, specifically like this kind of like rebirth that I'm kind of describing that's going on for me in this moment is like feeling so confident in just myself. And the way I used to relate to confidence like years ago would be like, oh, I feel like I'm just gonna like, you know, go out into the world more. Like I'm just, I can do anything, you know? And it's fascinating because now that I'm like having that click into place in my being, I'm noticing that it's just like having deeper layers of trust, not only in myself, but specifically with a higher power. Like it's not all on me. And it's like, oh, that feels fucking liberating. That feels so, just knowing that, you know, I'm not alone and I'm not doing it on my own, you know what I mean? Just like feeling so fucking supported. And I've said this to you before, it's like I'm sitting in this level of Godfidence right now. It's not just like about, it's not just confidence, it's Godfidence. And like so it's been wild. Yeah,
that journey from like, it's almost like surface level confidence into like a deep inner
embodied confidence.
Yeah, exactly. And I can totally relate to that, because I used to think that confident meant like getting dressed up cute and like going and like parading yourself around. You're like, oh, I look so pretty today. And like, and I thought that was confidence. But yet underneath that, I couldn't express myself. I couldn't voice my opinions. I couldn't be who I really wanted to be because there was no confidence there. And I thought like, you know, you think confidence is one thing, and then you get kind of like deeper into your own inner work, and you're just like, oh no, that was a false mask or whatever that I was just like parading around. And then the confidence in your, like it gets deeper for me when it's like confidence in my capacity to handle things, confidence in my ability to like surrender, and my ability or my knowing that like I can handle anything that like comes my way. Confidence in like that you're supported, like you said, and like that really deep layer or level of confidence is just so much more like fulfilling than that like surface level, I look cute today, like kind of confidence. Yeah. Even though that feels good too.
Yeah, exactly. It does feel good. But what I've noticed for me in like that type of like my vanity essentially, what I've noticed in that is that my perception is all outward, and it ended up being this like, I think a lot of women can relate to this, because something that's fascinating about men and women, and it's mainly a hormonal thing, is kind of how our awareness is quantified. So women have more of a diffuse awareness, so it's kind of like like they're constantly observing and assuring that they're kind of like safe, and it is because of evolution's sake of like being like the gatherers in the tribe, so they're always having to like constantly kind of like observe that they're safe, you know, like
a deer.
Yeah, exactly. Is there any predators around? Essentially, so it's called diffuse awareness. And the men, you know, they have more like the hunter, so theirs is more of like I can't remember the word now. Not shoot, I can't remember the exact word, but their awareness is more focused.
Okay.
Because of that hunter aspect, because they have to like really be zoomed in, right? And so it's a little bit different. And because of how that's kind of transferred for women now is like it can come off as self-centered. Because there is this evolutional awareness scope of like making sure like, okay, whose eyes are on us. So like if something, how this like maybe people can imagine, like if you're at a gym, we are constantly aware of how we look to other people.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, okay, is my, you know, my do I got a camel toe? Like, oh, what does my hair look like? Oh my god, am I sweating? And it's just like, you know, like we're just like constantly aware of how we look. But then men, it's more like, okay, like there's, okay, zoomed in on her. And it's fascinating is like, for me, what I've noticed is like I could feel people's attention. Like you could feel it. And I'm sure a lot of women can relate to that. You can feel as soon as a man is zoomed in on you, you're like, okay, he's checking me out. Like, I'm not even looking and I can feel him checking me out. So because of this, women are a lot more self-conscious. Right? And the vanity, and because of that, like all the focal point becomes on how we look. And again, because of evolutionary and kind of like how the mating dance works, like, you know, we do want to look prettier and but like it's all intertwined, and we can get our confidence and just like how we want to show up in the world so wrapped up on the external because of it. And yeah, I mean, it helps us survive. It helps us acquire a mate and maybe some kind of status because everyone's concerned about the same thing, right? So, for me, that really fucked me up.
Yeah.
That really fucked me up. And so because I really had put this on a deeper intention to, you know, not only just like, I didn't really go into thinking like, oh, I want to be more confident. That really wasn't my goal, but it ended up going that route. Because like my goal was to like, you know, I just want to trust myself more. You know, I just want to trust myself to go there. I just want to be able to like, you know, I want to create a business. Like I want to do this. I want to, you know, and it actually forced me to stop looking externally and to go really deeply into who I am and who I want to be and like the things that I want and like my heart's desire. And what I find now, I'm hearing myself say this, like I'm, you know, for a lot of people that aren't used to looking inward, it probably like sounds a little selfish. Which it could come off like that in the beginning if you're so used to catering to other people, especially if we go back to the mother archetype, because that is like an edge for a mom to kind of go inward. But when my experience in doing that, I become so nourished. My cup becomes fuller. I'm like full of love. That only benefits everyone around me. And the confidence that's kind of acquired out of it has just been unshakable.
Yeah, I like how you brought up like it may come off as seeming selfish, because that's something that I've thought too. And like I have said like, yeah, I am selfish. Like I have chosen to, you know, do what I want. I have chosen to, and not at the expense of other people. That's kind of not what I'm saying.
Nuance.
Yeah, and it's not at the expense of other people, but it's in choosing yourself, choosing your path, choosing to heal yourself. And yeah, I mean, I don't even know if selfish is the word that I would use. There's probably another word that you could use, but I think there is like a layer of it there that's, yeah, I'm going to choose myself over anyone else right now that's in my life.
Yeah, and I like to argue because I am a mom, and I know lots of moms that kind of battle with that, is that you kind of have to be, because like, for example, like I had postpartum after having my son, and the biggest reason why is because I was doing it on my own. I was a single mom at the time, and
Mm-hmm.
I had to, like, I was literally, like, I felt like cattle. Breastfeeding. I literally felt like fucking cattle, and I hated it. I hated it.
Mm-hmm.
And the biggest reason why, though, is because that's all I was doing was, like, you know, that's all I could do. I didn't have any support. I didn't have any time to really sleep. So I was tired. I didn't really have any time to, like, feed myself because I had to do all of, like, clean and, you know, all these other things. So my tank was empty. My, like, literal tank is empty. And I think that, you know, for various reasons, but a big piece of it would be, like, just kind of how our society is wired, where, you know, we're measured on our performance and not so much of, like, you know, we're just, like, measured how much we can do.
Yeah.
How much we can perform, right?
Yeah.
Think of corporate and the patriarchy.
Productivity and...
Exactly. Yeah. What happens is we don't have the value system for our own pleasure or our own nourishment, which, if you look at anyone that doesn't get enough sleep, they're cranky, they're moody, they're fucking assholes. Yeah. So, like, who are you helping at that point? Nobody.
Yeah, our society definitely measures, like, productivity and has a view that it's like you have to run yourself into the ground to be a contributing member of society. And if you take time away, you know, you're at work and you take your vacation time, or you get guilted for it. I totally felt like that when I was in the workforce. It's like, if I called in sick, I was like, oh my God, like, I feel so bad. And that's just, like, the overarching view that we kind of live with. But kind of like you were saying, like, you can only give so much to others if you're, like, giving it to yourself as well, because when your tank is on empty, you've got nothing to give anyone around you anyways, because you're literally just, like, trudging through, trying to make it through, like, day by day, and you're not probably contributing or bringing value in the way that you want to. And in order to get that back, you have to take that time for yourself. You have to fill your own cup, and then you can go and, like, contribute and bring value to other people too.
Exactly. And that is when you can show up engaged and present and intentional, rather than just, like, fuck, I'm so tired. Oh, I'm so tired. And, like, you end up complaining and, like, you know, bitching about your partner and, like, talking shit about your kids or, like, whatever, just because you're fucking tired. And it's like, okay, rather than dragging your feet and, you know, sit the fuck down, bitch.
Chill out.
Yeah, sit down, bitch. That's what I say to myself. Like, okay, you need to lay the fuck down. So on the other end of it, when, you know, I'm feeling all these, like, layers kind of clicking into place, and for anyone that, you know, does any type of, like, identity work or, like, self-development or whatever, when you start to feel, like, the momentum and, like, that like, rebirth on the other end of it, for, like, literally just today, and I shared this with you before, like, you will get opportunities to really integrate that.
You get tested.
Tests, yes. Just little ways that, like, for me, how I relate to it is, like, I'm given opportunities to prove it to myself. And when you do that, it creates more trust. It creates more confidence. And it is just integration. It really is integration. Is, like, that's, I guess, would be, like, the last phase of it. Allowing it to integrate in the world. So it's like the people that you would have related into that past identity, whether it be, like, the mom or, like, whoever, whatever this identity that you could relate with, that you're growing from or letting go of, it gives you a new opportunity to be that newer identity, or that more authentic version of yourself, whether it be saying no to somebody, or, you know, just choosing yourself for some reason, or saying something in a completely different way, or dancing, or, you know, like, whatever it is.
Yeah, no, I like those moments, because I have them too, where it's like, hey, I'm gonna choose this, and then, like, you get tested almost, or it's like something comes up, and it almost feels to me, it's like God or the universe is like, but do you really want it? Like, how bad do you want it? Like, are you gonna keep moving forward, or are you gonna, like, kind of shrink back? And then it's in those moments for me that I'm just like, no, like, I want it. I'm moving forward. We're moving into this new phase, and we're just gonna, like, acknowledge that and just, like, deal with it in the best way we can and move forward as it is.
Exactly. So I love this. Like, this kind of work just gets me so juiced up, because, even though like, you know, I work in the realms of sexuality, it is still a form of identity. Like I feel like our sex is at like the core of our humanness. And in this work, for me, there's just so many, it's like our identity is so intertwined with our sexuality, like people don't even realize, like people do not even realize how deeply intertwined it is. Maybe this is a whole other episode. But so yeah, I'm just really well versed in these layers, and it's exciting because even though it's like this specific example that I'm kind of sharing with everyone is more to do with like my confidence in relationship with life and God, it will touch everything that I do, because it ends up being like how I show up in relation to you, in relation to my business, my lover, my son, like all of these different things in my life. And who knows, you know, I don't know where this is gonna go, but I'm very excited because, you know, it's something you've been working for, right?
Yeah.
So it's exciting.
Yeah.
And yeah, I thank you for letting me kind of share this a little bit with you today and talking with me. And
yeah, no, I love it. Thank you for like being open and being vulnerable and being willing to share your story and your experiences with me and also everyone that is listening.
Cool.
Beautiful. God, there's hair in my nose. Like, I don't know
what
the fuck is going on.
Is it incense maybe?